guys, we're back with RACE22 Podcast here. I'm sitting in the dreary, rainy office in Copper Hill, Virginia. Of course, no racing, not a lot to talk about, but there is kind of a lot to talk about. So I got Roger Johnson from Performance Center, or formerly of Performance Center, because nobody's open, so he's not really doing much down there. I don't think. Maybe selling some stuff on eBay or something, but I'm not really sure. Roger, thanks for taking the time to join me here and talk back and forth about all what's going on in the local racing scene.
I appreciate chit-chatting with you, bud. You know me. I've been at the shop going every day so far, just at least for a while in the morning, and trying to take care of regular things. So, we have to maintain the things that we have to do during this time, no matter what, right? Like still pay bills and do different things and get some parts out to customers that are in need. But yeah, it's not crazy town, that's for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned getting some parts out to customers. I assume as the longer this drags on, the more that kind of starts to slow up.
Yeah, initially it went really kind of hard. A lot of people thought, man, we're going to get closed down for a little while. We're going to, take on a bunch of big projects. And you're exactly right. It's kind of tapered slowly. Still appreciative for this stuff that we're selling, but yeah, definitely backed up a little bit here in the last 4 weeks.
Yeah, I figured that. I figured the same thing would have happened at say Lowe's or Home Depot or Ace Hardware or wherever these people are going to hang out and get all their stuff for their projects. But man, every time I drive by one of them, they seem to be wide open, and certainly all the rest of us would like to be wide open too. And here we are. You were over a month now into this. I can't remember the exact date when this started. Hell, without looking at my computer, I couldn't tell you what date it is now, and I think tomorrow's Friday. I'm not 100% sure. What day is it? I don't know. I have to ask myself that every day of the week. What day is it? I don't know about you, but that seems to be my thing here lately. I have to check in and make sure what day it is.
It's definitely hard to tell the weekdays from the weekends, that's for sure. Right? I catch myself doing things on a Wednesday night at 2:30 in the morning that I probably would normally do, but what's weird is, I think everybody's got different things to handle during these times. It doesn't seem like I have any less to do, which I'm sure you agree with. It seems like my time definitely, even though I have more of it, it's still harder to get things done. So I feel less productive for sure.
No doubt. As this continues on, things are ever evolving with our government. I'm sure as we were recording this, our president is on TV telling us some other crap today. Same stuff that they said the last month, maybe a little bit different. I'm sure Governor Cooper for you in North Carolina was on earlier and discussed some things. We'll talk about a little bit of that here in a minute. But just kind of recapping where we're at. Hasn't been any racing in the last 5 weeks, I believe, 5 or 6 weeks. The Cars Tour race for us here on the East Coast was the last time anybody raced. But there is racing on the horizon, just not very close by. Been reading all week about this sprint car, some sort of, I don't know what it is, some sort of nationals they're having. I should have probably looked up the name before I started talking about it, but I don't really care enough to do it. It's a dirt race out in South Dakota. They're planning on having this weekend. I believe Kenny Wallace and Ken Schrader are both participating in it. Speed Shift TV is going to have a pay-per-view of it if it happens. I assume at this point it's going to happen because things have been, very fluid in how that's changed. They announced it last week, I believe, and they've never had a stay-at-home order there in South Dakota, so they were free to return to business as soon as they wanted to, I guess, and they decided to make this happen as other states began to ease their restrictions. And they were originally going to have 700 fans. They had pre-sold 700 tickets, and today I seen that they had canceled that. There will be no fans. Teams will still be coming in as of now. I mean, that's subject to change, I guess. Here we are, 2 days before it's supposed to happen, and they're canceling the ticket holders. So interesting scenario. I know you and I talked about it the other day, but what'd you make of them jumping on board and having a race so quickly, and all the changes that have happened since?
I guess I spent a good bit of time years ago when I was traveling the country in the World of Outlaw Sprint Car deal. I spent a lot of time in North and South Dakota at the dirt tracks around there, and I can somewhat understand their thought process behind we can probably do this because there's not really a lot there.
Right.
It, I still don't know that it's the greatest of ideas. Maybe it was met with good intentions, but I still think that's probably bumping the line a little bit. I'm going to be interested as to who's going to take the first step. That's something that you and I have discussed at length, probably off the air, is who's going to take the first steps and kind of push back as hard as they can on the system. And I'm not surprised to see a few of those states out there that are less populated try to give it a run.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't even know that, I don't even know that, they're even pushing against the system because they don't really have any restrictions. So we're still in a, hold here. I'm planning on going to a race. I think I said this last week, maybe on the episode. Montgomery Motor Speedway in Alabama plans to open on May 9th. I'm planning to be there. I mean, which ask the question, if they're going to open all these other states, why aren't Virginia and North Carolina? I mean, I see South Carolina's opening in some form or fashion, maybe not racetracks, go-kart tracks. They're going to operate. I've seen every go-kart track that I follow on Facebook that is in South Carolina has said that they're opening on May 2nd. So a lot of things happening though. I don't know. I don't know what that means for us here. I don't know if that's good or bad for the Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Tennessee contingent of late model stock car racers that we primarily have covered here on RACE22. I don't know what that means for us. I don't know if that means that we'll be racing soon, or if those guys are going to screw it up for all of us and we're not going to be racing for months. I really just can't tell you what that is going to do. I mean, do you have an opinion on that, one way or the other?
I don't think anybody can tell us right now, right? I think that everybody wants to go back, but I do think there's still some hesitation in a lot of people. I think there are many people that really want to go, and I'm one of them. You're one of them, but I also think on the same side we're cautiously optimistic as to when we'll get to race. I think kind of a phase one for us was making a determination that we finally got a date, right? Like we thought we had a date, and then now we've kind of realized, well, maybe that date's a little further off than we thought it was. And that, I think
Right.
these will become the new norms as we rein in on a time period of when we're going to race. I'm interested most of how it's going to work with all the states having such different orders. Are you gonna, if you live in North Carolina, are you gonna be able to go race in Kingsport? Or, we saw Nashville come out today and say that they would probably be July, if not August.
Right.
So there's a lot of different agendas playing out here, and I think you're gonna have to sit back and see what works out best for you and your race team and your family, for that matter, as to what you feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
I personally don't believe, and I may catch more grief for this, but I don't, even if they open it up today, I just don't believe that in mass people are going to flood to the racetrack. I just don't believe that.
Well, I don't think from a fan standpoint they will, but I think there will be a lot of fans at the races. But I mean, I don't think there'll be any more than most racetracks normally get.
Yeah, I agree.
But from a racer standpoint, I've kind of said this several times, and being playing part-time promoter myself, at Franklin County, I'm kind of in the boat of deciding how to handle this. But first one out of the gate for their immediate region, man, they're going to gain a lot of cars.
But let's not forget, is it long-term growth for the simple fact of 26 million Americans are unemployed.
Sure.
So, is this a short-term pop that we see because everybody's been caged up and
Right.
and
It is.
we want to go? You and I are both very vested in the sport, and not only from from something that we love, but from a financial basis. And I think that things, I want to see it run the long haul. I want to see it be here in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years from now. I don't want to see things happen where we open early or we do things that we shouldn't do, trying to force the issue, and we step over a nickel or step over a dollar to pick up a nickel. I think that could be catastrophic.
I'm with you. That's why I ask. Do you think they're gonna mess it up for all of us in these other places that are gonna get to open up, or do you think that
As,
it's
as I
gonna
told you
be
before,
beneficial
I
to us?
wouldn't I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. I think that some of these governors are trying to develop their own data. I don't think they know what to do.
Right.
So I think who sacrifices who first? Like, you know, we spoke on in the past year about Georgia just really getting ready to go. They're getting ready to cut her loose, and
Yeah.
that's going to be an interesting experiment. But I think that this is going to become more the norm now. These waves of, I wouldn't be surprised to see some, maybe not shut down to this magnitude, but some pullback in August or September from some of the articles that I read when this virus tries to overlie the flu. So
Right.
if that is the case, maybe you were the smart guy to get those couple races in. We spoke with Ron Barfield, and he was lucky enough to get a couple races in earlier in the year. He was very happy that he got them in, where
Sure.
some other people that we've talked to, they didn't get races in, and they're upset and they wish they would have raced as opposed to not, because knowing they were going to be shut down for a large amount of time. So I think, I think it is going to be on an individual basis. I think we will not see some places open up ever again.
Oh, sure.
I mean, I think some racetracks, this could possibly do them in. I don't wish that upon any of them, but I just think it's the natural cycle of the business world, and it's the time in this pandemic that we're faced with.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's racetracks that were such on the ragged edge of being overboard and being done anyway. So I'm sure that this situation is not playing into their favor, and I mean it's not playing into anybody's favor at the moment. But it'll play into somebody's favor when it's over with, or
On,
not
on the
not
flip side of that,
necessarily
you
over
and I
with.
have discussed many, many, many times how, you know, racing, at least our version of late model stock car racing, almost needed a little financial pullback because the racetracks were becoming more worth more money as commercial real estate than they were as a racetrack. And you and I spoke 3 months ago about this, 4 months ago about this, that a little backturn in the market would possibly help those racetracks that were becoming valued for shopping malls or industrial centers or different things as property that weren't valued as a racetrack, that this may come back and play to them. And I really agree with that. I just hope we're not too far back. Does that make sense?
No, I agree with you 100%. And I don't know how that'll all work out. I mean, just like Myrtle Beach, and I don't like to, talk about rumors a whole lot. But popping up on social media the last couple of days, people talking about, is Myrtle Beach done? And obviously, we all know the story. Myrtle Beach, has a contract with a land developer. They were, originally planning on going through the end of June with racing and then being done. Then last week, their Facebook page, they actually uploaded a schedule on there that takes them through the end of the year as they would normally, and then that changed a couple times. I think the opening date got pushed back a couple different times, and then the rumors started popping up that everybody's been fired and everything's gone, and of course we're chasing that story down to see what truth there is to that. And I'm not saying that there is any. I don't have a clue. But there's a whole lot of things happening there, and hopefully Myrtle Beach is able to pull through this. It's obviously a fan favorite of racetracks. It's not at the top of my list, but it's at the top of a lot of people's list, and hopefully they make it through. I hate to see any racetrack shut down for any reason. But the longer this goes, speaking of shutdowns, the longer this goes, the smarter Motor Mile Speedway looks. Pulling the trigger early, and if it's keeps going into, June, July, August. The longer it goes, the smarter they look.
Yeah, like I said, I think you're going to see a lot of those where, at a certain point in time, is it worth going through the complete opening process? You and I have discussed also at length the fact that these businesses just don't open overnight, right? Like you've been working quite a bit up there in Franklin County, and I've still been working quite a bit at Performance Center. So the intriguing part is they just don't stop. And are people going to want to try to project that far off? And number two, in these times, are they going to want to spend the money to bring their facilities up to ready to race if they haven't?
Right.
Meaning, we've sat idle for a month and a half. We were all ready to go. We stocked everything. Everybody's got food, concessions, blah, blah, blah. We're ready to go to the racetrack. Now, for the last month and a half, we haven't done anything. We've curbed our employees a little bit. Now, you know what I mean? Now we have that big push again of X amount of dollars to rebreathe back into the facility to get it going again.
Right. I'm with you, man. Trust me. I think about that every day. Every time I go down to, spray some weeds or, mow some grass, or I watch a guy weed eat, because I damn sure ain't touching a weed eater. Every time I do that and, think about the money that's being spent, I think, gosh, man, is this all for nothing? You know what I mean? What's going to happen here? And every racetrack is in that position, no matter how. And I'm the most positive guy in the world, but no matter how positive you are, you still have to look and go, man, look at what's happening here. You know what I mean? And I make myself even worse because I'm somewhat of a nerd. So I go and try to find as much data as I can about everything. And, talking about, the way this thing has went, and talking about people going early and ruining it for others. And the reason I asked that, one of the main reasons I asked that question is, looking back at how the plague, or what, the Spanish flu, sorry, not the plague, how that worked out in 1917, they had 3 different spikes because they moved too quickly. So, are we heading into something like that? I tell you, I go through a range of emotions, and I'm sure everybody else, on Earth does too, that's going through this right now. But I go through a range of emotions. One day I'm like, all right, let's shut it down. Let's be done. Let's get it out of the way. Let's be shut down for a month. Next day I wake up and I'm like, all right, let's get this over with. Let's move on with life. If people got to die, they got to die, and then I think, man, that's really stupid. And so I just go through a range of emotions that range from, one crazy end to the other. So I don't know what to do, and I don't know what they should do.
I think that's the uncertainty with everybody. If anybody, both you and I are fortunate from, we've been affected by this in some financial ways, in some inconvenience ways, and in some other things, but no real monster sacrifice has happened here. We haven't lost loved ones yet. We haven't, and I think the key is it's just that uncertainty. You are definitely a more glass half full guy than I am. I'm definitely more skeptical than you, or I try. I'm more, and I don't think cynical is the right word, but I just really try to look at the raw data and take some of the emotion out of it, much the same as you. I just don't. I can tell you that I don't sleep well. It's the same. You just. I think as all small business owners and probably some large business owners right now, the uncertainty and all those people that we employ are priorities, and it's hard to know what to do, because I don't. Even as we go back, I've searched out my grandparents for a little bit for counsel, and my family, just from living through past things. And, it's intriguing that their advice is even somewhat clouded just for the fact of people haven't been through this type of deal. And I think we're going to have to trudge through it together. Definitely try to keep some positivity. I know it's a very hard thing for me. I try to find things to keep myself active, or my wife says that we're closed, but yet I still go every day. And I think that's true. I think we have to do those things just from a mental standpoint. If I had to just stay inside the house all day every day, I don't know which would be worse. You know what I mean?
Right. Speaking of seeking counsel from people who have lived through things, whatever you do, anybody who's listening, whatever you do not seek counsel from the Las Vegas mayor. She had an interview with Anderson Cooper, and if you haven't seen it, I don't watch. I flip through different news channels, so I see a little bit of CNN, a little bit of MSNBC, a little bit of Fox News, a little bit of CBS. So I see a little bit of it all. But I happened to catch just part of this, and then I went and watched a video that's about 12 minutes long on YouTube, and that lady's hilarious. She tells some stories about typhoid Mary, or I don't know, Legionnaire's disease in Philadelphia, and things I don't know a whole lot about. But she's trying to make her people in Las Vegas the test dummies for finding out if they're going to live or die through this. You should go watch the video. It's very entertaining, but whatever you do, if you live in Las Vegas and you're listening to this, please don't vote for her. And if you please don't take her advice if you happen to need some advice, because I don't think, Roger, I don't think you've watched the video yet. I sent it to you. I don't think you've watched it yet, but man, it is it's worth the 10 or 12 minutes of entertainment that you'll get out of it.
Yeah, it really sounded just like from our discussion of you telling me about it, that she's really just allowing them to be the test subjects.
Yeah.
I can't. I think the biggest thing that this is going to affect is, and you and I neither one jam politics, but I think that will be, in my opinion, the biggest effect on this entire thing will be how each person of power handled it and how it affected your group or not your group. I'm sure you and I were talking about the gentleman from North Carolina naming race teams essential.
Yep.
Now, I'm sure that there are a bunch of people that are not racing related that are sitting at home stuck because they're not allowed to work under this order that are very upset by that.
Oh, I can only imagine. I mean, listen, you and I think that racing's essential, but I'm not sure that the overwhelming majority of people would find that to be the case. And I know where they're coming from. I mean, just like this lady from Las Vegas, it's funny, and I don't, I run over with the bus, but I ain't gonna back up over her. I will say that I understand where she's coming from. All of the people that are there, the casinos, the hotels, everybody's just losing their minds because they're losing all their money, and I get that. I mean, so I get the aspects of the health, and I get the aspects of the money, and I get all that, and I get that from this too. But I just that's an interesting move that Roy Cooper said today. He said that they fall under his current executive order. They fall under essential, and I guess they can return to work because they plan to race without fans in Darlington next month. And other areas. Homestead is believed to be, a track that they're going to go to. Talladega as well, which fall in states that are, reopening. So it's going to be interesting. But I am sure you're right, including me, honestly. I look at that and I think, so you're going to extend all these other things for all the people that live there. You're going to extend them May 8th, but you're going to let the NASCAR teams go back to work. That just doesn't make any sense to me, and I don't know. I don't know what to make of it, period.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that we've seen, that are questionable, and I think a lot of others. Since I would say most of the people that probably listen to your podcast here are people involved in racing or small business people that have cars or participate at a racetrack during the weekends, and I think they're the ones being hurt the most, and I just hope that we can. All try to rally a little bit together, and because it's going to take everybody together. That is the one thing that I do see, that the racing community, this could not be what it needed necessarily, but something that brings it together to some ways that maybe us as racers were pushing against. We didn't want things to go a certain way, or we did want things to go a certain way with maybe purse structures or how races are run or the way things are going. I think a lot of things we will see change in the next 6 months.
Sure, I agree. I'm not going to dive too deep into that because that's a whole conversation that could take us hours to pick apart. But
For sure.
I wonder what this whole thing of making the NASCAR teams, essentially them being essential. I mean, what does that mean for Performance Center? What does that mean for a local race team? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I think that my biggest thing at Performance Center is definitely, um, my guys. And there's nobody that's not being serviced at Performance Center right now. As usual, you can call Performance Center and you'll get me. I'll answer the phone, and we'll try to get you what we need. I don't think there's a lot of people out there needing a new clip in the last 30 days or whatever, just from the lack of action. But I think that we as Performance Center will just continue to slowly open up here as we get more information from people. We're not going to let you, if you need something, we're definitely not going to let you not get it, but we're also definitely not going to be 8 people at the shop going wide open as hard as we can go.
Right.
Just till we kind of see what things work out here. That's also something I don't want to end up behind, but I also think that in this case, maybe not being the first one to run back to the flame might be a decent idea.
Yeah, I'm with you. And from my standpoint here, I'm torn, man. Like I've said earlier, from a promoter standpoint, they all want to be first, and sometimes in my mind I want to be first, and sometimes I don't, and sometimes I don't care, and sometimes I really care, and I just I don't know. This is probably the most indecisive I've ever been in my life, making decisions on things because, I'm having to, rely on other people and government agencies to kind of lead that, into what we can and can't do. And I think you got the right strategy with your business to, try to go in, every day and ship out some stuff to people that need it and get it made, have a guy, stop in and make it or whatever you need to do there. For your customers, but I mean the racetrack's getting back going. I don't know what the right decision there is, and I don't know what who's going to make the right decision and who's going to pull the trigger first. We had a conversation. It's funny, I talked about those rumors about Myrtle Beach earlier, and it's funny, I think you and I were talking the other day, and my guess was that they were going to be the first out of the gate to have a race. Just given the way South Carolina is starting to, turn things on and all that. And now, with those rumors popping up, I don't know that that's true. And the way they've kind of laid their schedule out, I don't know if that's true. So who's going to be first? I don't have a clue. I really don't know. It's an interesting scenario. I think Kingsport's in a good spot to be the first track out, but they're NASCAR sanctioned and they got to be released by NASCAR to return to racing too. So they're kind of handcuffed somewhat. And we talked with Ron Barfield about that last week about whether we thought the NASCAR tracks would be kind of held back by NASCAR or not. I don't know, man, but I got a good question for you that'll be a good conversation here, and sure. If let's say you're running Tri County or Hickory, okay, you're the guy, you're making the decisions, or Caraway or Southern National, doesn't make a difference what track it is. What are you doing? What are you gonna do? How are you gonna handle this? Are you gonna be? Do you want to be the first out? What's your game plan? Should we race? Should you turn it on and go racing, or should you not?
I
Boy, I caught you off guard with that one, didn't I?
No, you didn't, because it's something that I've thought about extensively. I think the biggest problem is that question is very hard to answer from a businessman standpoint, from the way I would attack it, be it you don't know what position that they're in up to this.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that's kept me really from trying to judge anybody during this time is I don't know the rest of the story. I don't know. Are you $1,000? Are you $2,000 away from being in trouble? Are you? Does one race fix it? Yes, we have to start somewhere. What happens for those tracks that? Because if we're going to race without fans, they're going to have to, I would assume, which we know what that does. I would assume that they're going to try to stream the race or to try to get some avenue out of it rather than just be the 70 people or 50 people that are allowed in the pits.
Right.
So, are they set up for that? A lot of those rural racetracks, including Franklin County, I believe we ran into this up there at your race, there's just not good internet service.
Well, there's a little bit better now since November, but yeah, you're right.
But you see, I think all these things play into.
They do.
Myself, if I'm sitting there and I've done the right things up until this point, I'm probably rallying around my racers, in contact with them, just like I am my current customer base, trying to decide, what they want to do, what I'm calling everybody from the guy that's got 5 rental cars to the guy that wants to run limited and is more about just having a good time. I think you need to gather information about what the racer feels. Do they feel safe? Do they think that they're going to need PPE? Do they think, or PPG? Are they going to need protective gear? What do we need to do as a racetrack to make you folks feel comfortable enough to come back? Because I think at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Right. If the racer himself feels comfortable coming back to the racetrack, he's going to come. And then when he goes home, he's going to tell his friends that he was comfortable and that it wasn't that bad and that they missed out. And then his friends are going to get fear that they missed out and want to come more. So I'm interested as to what those dialogues are. You know what I mean? What the racer is telling the promoter. And then secondly, will the racer deliver after the promoter puts his attempt out there? I think that's going to be a interesting variable because a lot of people, we all deal with racers. When you put on you're going to have a race, you get 70 calls of people that are going to come. And by the time the race happens, it's not always what happens.
Yeah, about 1/3 of them usually show up. Right.
So, I think that we almost just have to have one to start.
Right.
And, can we make a mandate of how that goes? I don't know. How many people do we let on the grounds? Is it, you know what I mean? Is it, right. Are we observing what the governor says, or do we go further with it because we're worried about it more than them? You know what I mean? Do we, our system in Tri-County or in Kingsport, is that a different system than it is, let's say, at Myrtle Beach if they race there, or
the guidelines are definitely different depending on where you're at.
It's a racetrack by racetrack type of version.
It is. And honestly, it goes, not just for whatever the state guidelines are, depending on how your racetrack's laid out, it changes the dynamics of what you can and can't do and what you think you can get away with and what you think is safe and what isn't. So, I mean, it's definitely an interesting... But one of the things you mentioned, I'll give you another hypothetical here, okay? So... what's going to happen? We've heard that there's a racetrack. I'm not going to name them at all, but we've heard there's a racetrack that's kind of floated the idea to his racers that he's going to have a race with no fans. He's not going to charge any pit passes, or the pit pass fee will be minimal. And guys can buy tires or whatever for a late model race, but there's not going to be any payout at the end of the night. What's going to happen with that? What is the racer's mentality to that? Because everybody's, if the track's got to give, the racer's got to give. And I think most intelligent people, which not all of us in this business are, understand that that's how it's going to have to work. Okay, so what do you think the racer mentality for that is? Do you think that because of the times we're in, that there's going to be, a bunch of racers that say, man, I just want to go race. I just got to go out and race, and they're going to go do that? Or do you think they're going to go, no, that's setting up for something bad in the future,
I think they're going to initially, I don't know, my heart tells me that initially a lot of them will go, but my brain tells me that they won't. My heart tells me that I want, I was talking to the guys at the shop today. My heart tells me that the 30 cars will show up at the first person that has a race, and it could be some amazing racing. People essentially it's like having a season opener all over again, right? Like, I mean, so, or is a season opener for many. So, new cars, nice stuff. They've had plenty of time to work on it. Really chomping to get out there and race. That's what my heart tells me. But my head tells me differently. I just don't believe for 1 second with this many people being out of work, with this much uncertainty as to does this come back, does this not come back,
Right.
with this family rooted as this sport is from the top to the bottom, with it being whether we're talking about kids renting cars as a family. This sport takes so much that it takes a family or a group for each car, for each driver, for each everything. And I
Right.
think it will be, if people feel comfortable enough, that am I okay with putting my family at risk? I mean, we're seeing people stay home that are potentially going to starve themselves because
Right.
they're scared of getting sick.
Right.
Now, at what point does that equate into, hey, us going to the racetrack to race and not having any consequences? I the other thing is the cost. That's something that you kind of slid in there, but do racers today care more about the prize money that they'll win, or do they care more about, just being able to go race?
Right. I mean, I don't know the answer to that. I don't
I
know
don't either.
and I don't know that the answer is the same for everybody. So, I mean, I think everybody's position and their circumstance will dictate how that goes. So I don't know. It's really interesting to talk about, but I guess we technically accomplished nothing by just talking about it. But I could tell you that from a standpoint of trying to get Franklin County open, I can tell you that it's things go through my head every day, ideas and, like I think I got the PPE part of it figured out. I think, like that was my first hurdle, when all this stuff got to the point that it was a week or 2 weeks ago. And I started looking at, okay, when we're going to be able to open, PPE is going to be, personal protection equipment is going to be at the top of the list. So, I think I got all that figured out. So I got that part, the social distancing part. I've got some ideas, got some ways, of handling that. So I think I'm getting closer there. And I think every racetrack, is I hope they are, anyways, man. I really any racetrack owner, promoter, general manager, whatever your title is, if you're not thinking about that, then you're probably not opening until the government says, "Hey, we're all clear, it's gone," because you haven't thought through what it's going to take to make this work. So I don't know, man. I'm interested to see how all this plays out. I'm really interested, to get back racing. I'm also really interested to not die. So and to not have anybody that I know die. I mean, I don't want any racer to die. I don't want anybody. I don't even like people I don't like. I don't want them to die either. So, it's really really challenging times, man. And all we can do is sit here and talk about it. But it's fun to sit here and talk about it sometimes. I had to. I told you earlier that I didn't know what day it was. I literally had to go look just now. So, it is Thursday. We're going into Friday. We're should be racing this weekend, man. Saturday doesn't look good, but man, Sundays at Franklin County sure would have looked good this weekend. So, and those are the thoughts that go through my mind. We're like I said, we're testing a little bit. I probably have a couple cars that'll test Sunday. I think most racetracks are testing. I think South Boston and may be the only track. I can't think of another that's not. Well, I guess Myrtle Beach is not testing, from what I gather. So there's two racetracks that are not testing. Everybody else is basically having a test here or there for a couple of cars at a time. So we're still moving along with things, but just not being able to race. Eventually, people are going to get tired of testing too. So
For
I
sure.
don't know what's going to happen at that point.
Yeah, I think right there. I mean, for some younger guys, this has probably been a good thing to be able to get some extra laps under their belt. In a lower pressure environment, and I'm sure they're chasing to or chewing at the bit to try to go out there and race a little bit and show what they have. But On the secondary side, I think every situation is so unique that I think that we have to hold as much judgment as possible because every situation is completely different. And
It is.
every situation is going to have its own set of circumstances. And there's going to be a lot of judgment calls because we have no guidance. We just have no guidance. I mean, beside the governor's guidance, but how much does that apply? We were, discussing the NASCAR portion of coming back, but we don't know how far that extends, right? And we don't know how far, even if they opened it up today, how many people would be comfortable to come back. So it's just so many unknowns, and I think that's what causes the anxiety.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I think, I think the biggest problem we got at this point in time right now, and this is not racing related, this is in general. I think people are losing patience with sitting at home and with following orders, and the unrest is rising so much. I'm afraid of what is going to take place. All these protests in these capital cities and all that. And I seen a lady, funny, somebody shared a video on Facebook earlier with this lady who wanted to go to the park and took her kids out there, and they're playing at the park, and this cop comes to run them off because it was shut down, and she asked to be arrested, and she got arrested, and then she was upset about it. I mean, I don't really. People are really stupid, and people are getting dumber by the moment. So I don't really know what's going to happen here. I'm just trying not to be one of those idiots. So,
yeah, I think people are just scared, and a lot of them I don't blame. I think we got 26 million people that don't have a job. I think
yeah,
that sums it up in one form or the other.
there's
We,
definitely going to be some issues that come from that. But, hey, there are that many people that are out of a job. But once we turn this thing back on, there won't be that many people out of a job. And there's people that are out of a job. Many of them, not all of them, are getting more money right now than they will when they actually get paid, when they go back to their job, given the $600 bonus and all
which
that
brings up
through.
another set of circumstances
Oh,
that could become brutal.
for sure, for sure. I mean, what a mess, man. I mean, just the whole thing's a mess, and we're all just trying to, we're all just trying to make it through it. So, we'll see what happens, and I don't know. Anything else? We've been away for about a week. We meant to. I think I told you Monday, hey, we're gonna do one later, and then I never called. And then, we was gonna do one went yesterday, I believe, and never got around to it. And anything been on your mind that we haven't talked about already over the last week?
No, I'm really interested to see what racetracks around the country. You and I have discussed Madeira.
Yep.
You and I have discussed a lot of the other racetracks. I'm really interested to see how people, even though we're all in the same business, how people handle this differently. And I think that racers are resilient. So I believe that we'll figure out a way to bump up against the rules in one way or another and try to come out with a W.
Yep. I agree with that wholeheartedly, for sure. All right. Well, it wasn't much tonight, but we just kind of recapped where things were. I don't know what Roger's doing tomorrow. Not sure. I know earlier in the week you tried to get with David Gilliland, and you guys
Man, that was an
recorded
epic
something,
fail.
and you managed to
Oh
screw
my
that
gosh. So
up. And
yeah, earlier in the week, David had some time, so he called me. We Zoom called, and I had this great 50-minute interview of him and I talking back and forth. And I went to I went to send the audio or the video to you, and it was just video. Me and him talking away for 50 minutes, laughing with no audio. Which is why I should stick to building race cars and definitely let you run RACE22 or do anything that has to do with videography.
Yeah, no, stuff happens, man. We've, I've lost a Cars Tour report last year one time, and then actually got it, recovered the file, and been able to use it. It's very easy to screw all this up. So,
Speaking of Cars Tour, before we go, how does the Nashville play into the Cars Tour? Nashville saying, I think if I remember correctly, was that not
yeah, that was supposed to have been the
going to
first
be the
Cars Tour
opener
race.
for the Cars Tour for the super late model
Yeah.
portion of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and we kind of, you talked about it and we didn't really go over it much, but the deal with Nashville is the mayor of Nashville, I don't have a clue of his name. I really don't care about who any of these politicians are or their names. So if I know their names, I've had it repeated to me 100,000 times. Is the only reason I'm able to repeat it. But they put out a thing today of how their phases are and what they were going to allow to happen and in those phases and all that. And basically, it is 2 months. It's an every 2 week phase deal, provided that things go smoothly. And so, at a minimum, it's 2 months from whatever it is, May 1st. So I guess that would put them at July 1st. So July 4th weekend would be their first opportunity to have a race there. So for the car store, I guess that cancels that. I got a feeling, man, and I listen. I try to be the most positive guy there is, but I got a feeling from a standpoint of the car store, in my opinion. I know Doc had a interview last week with Jack McNelly, and he asked him if they would race without fans, and he said he hadn't thought about that, which in itself gives me an idea that there ain't no way they're going to race without fans, and I just think that that's the case. They're not going to race without fans. They pay out too much purse money. Their TV deal doesn't make enough money. There's just no possible way, for that to work out. The only way NASCAR is going to race without fans is because they have, $100 billion, TV deal where, the tracks get 65%, I think is what the number is, of the deal. So, the track's still going to make money. The series is going to still make money, and everything's going to be able, the teams will be able to, turn sponsorship and all that. That's the only way that works. And that doesn't work for the majority of short tracks, I think, and the majority of short track series. I think, we talked about it with Ron. Ron's in a position where it doesn't really affect him. He's not scared to lose money. And I think there's several, I think there's several racetracks. I just think
it depends what your situation is. I mean, if you're bleeding 15 or 20,000 a month or more while this shutdown is happening, I think you're pushing with all your might to try to race. Right?
Yeah, I mean,
you're organizing races with marbles in the parking lot. You're doing anything you can do to try to make it work. I think if you're a place like Ron Barfield's or like Caraway or one of these old school racetracks that, I think your game is different now. You have to meet a different set of criteria.
Yeah, I think the majority of people that are leasing racetracks and the majority of people that have mortgages on racetracks are probably dying to get a race in, and they have to have fans. I think, the Caraway Speedways and the Dillon Motor Speedways, and even my situation at Franklin County, given the way my lease works, I don't have to, if I'm not racing, I don't pay a lease. Most racetracks are not in that position. Most racetracks are paying that no matter what. It's a monthly fee. And, I think that works, to the racetracks that are paid off that don't have that huge overhead. I think it works into their favor. I think Kingsport Speedway is kind of in that position, but I don't think I do not see them, given how their program works. Just what little bit I know from having been in the business so long and kind of visually watching. I don't have any inside knowledge there, but just what little bit I can figure out on my own. I don't see them racing without fans, but I could see Caraway, who doesn't draw a lot of, and I'm not throwing shade. This is a good time. Listen, this is the best time in the world for a track. Like Ron said last week, when your track doesn't draw but 100, 200 people, this thing of racing without fans doesn't really hurt you all that much. So it's a good time to be, one of these racetracks. And I know Caraway's been thrown under the bus for years for not having fans, and here they are, man. This is their time to shine when things are slowly turned back on. So I mean, I think it just, like you said, it depends on your situation. I mean, like for me, at Franklin County, creatively, I think I can find a way to race without fans. I need fans. I need fans to make money. But in order to just operate, I don't need fans necessarily. There's a way to work around that, and maybe that's, trimming the purse up a little bit, or, whatever it is, you know what I mean, just temporarily, which I think is acceptable in these times. You don't want to, but, if you have to, you have to. And I think that goes for everybody. I think, even Dillon, I think, Ron will probably have to trim up the purse a little bit to make it work. Yeah, he's probably willing to lose a couple $1,000s, but he ain't willing to lose $5,000 or $6,000, I'm sure. Same thing at Caraway. You just have to figure out the numbers and figure out how to make them work. And I don't know. It's a good time. It's an odd time in life when it's a good time to have a racetrack that doesn't draw very many fans. So,
Well, you're right. I think it's going to be all about cutting expenses too.
oh, it is
It's
for
going to
sure.
be about the longevity and I think you may see some racetracks go through some unconventional changes right here that initially might not feel that great just because they're different from what we're used to as a normal, but inevitably when we come out on the other side, we hopefully get some really good changes that came out of this turmoil. You and I had discussed at length before this the fact that oil is in the negative.
Right.
So at what point do we go away from this, $10 or $12 fuel that we're buying to go to, $3 pump gas or $2 pump gas or whatever?
I'm
I
with you.
think you're going to see a mass group of people, including, chassis builders, including myself. I won't speak for anybody else, but you're going to see a mass group of I think racers that are going to try to choke the price down as far as they can
Sure.
to get the longevity to make it to the other side of this.
Sure, I would agree. I mean, I think that goes for everything, and I think like I said earlier, I don't want to get into the conversation of how everything's going to work at a racetrack because that's we could sit here for 3 hours talking about it, and it may
Sure.
make a great show. We may should do that. We may should get a couple of promoters on, or get a racer on who has that perspective, and get a couple of promoters on, and just go roundtable discussion with things and talk about that. But um, I do think that things are going to change. I think people, if people think that when they turn this back on, that we're just going to flip a switch and go right back to racing and everything's going to be great, then they haven't really thought things through. I mean, if you look back at, the last recession that we were in, and we are most definitely in one at the moment. Now, how fast that comes back, I have no clue, and nobody else does either, no matter what they say. But if you look back at the last one, purses were lower. It stung. But the thing that has to come out of this one, in my opinion, as a promoter, I think that promoters, all general managers, all racetrack owners should be going, okay, this time we can only trim back the purse a little bit, so because it's never got back to where it should be. So we need to start trimming back the cost for these racers, because if we don't trim back the cost for the racers, then we're just going to see a larger exodus this time than we seen last time. And I think that's the thing that everybody's got to be careful about. We got to find a way to keep everybody in the game, keep the racetracks going. I know they're all greedy. That's what all racers say. Oh man, they made a ton of money this weekend, when in reality they probably lost $5,000 to race. But whatever, it doesn't make any difference. That's another argument for another day. But I think everybody's got to be, you said it earlier, it's going to take all of us, and it really is. Everybody's got to be in this together, not for themselves. They got to look out for themselves, but they also got to go, hey, I got to look out for, if you're a promoter, you got to look out for the racer. If you're a chassis builder, you got to look out for the racer. If you're a racer, you got to look out for both of those too. So.
That's one thing I think a lot of people don't take into perspective that I think from the business standpoint really, really, really rings home, at least to me, is the fact of if we start to lose these racetracks or businesses inside, if businesses start to go by the wayside or succumb to this downturn, I think it can become a domino effect that ripples throughout a small community really quickly.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest thing that we have to make sure as a group that we don't allow to happen.
Yeah, I agree totally, man. I agree. I mean, we could get really deep into this conversation because there's so many little, things that need to happen and roles that people need to play. But I think if everybody's working for the greater good, and right now racers want to race and racetracks want to open, and if everybody just keeps that in mind of making sure that everybody gets what they need out of this deal, I think we'll be okay. So somehow, Roger, we have managed to take what I thought would be 20 to 25 minutes, and we have almost made an hour out of it. So
there you go. That's what we do best.
I mean, it's no wonder that back in 2011 when we first started this show that we had 2-hour shows that became 3-hour shows, because we could never stay on time.
That popped up on my timeline the other day of how much younger we all looked. It was amazing. We all looked quite a bit younger. It was a good time. I believe we were in your garage over there, and it was good times. Good times.
Yep, for sure, man. It's and I'm tell you what, the one thing, I miss the radio show and being able to go down to, Performance Center and have a show from, last year. We were doing that, for a while until that didn't work out. But, I miss that. And I'll have to say that this podcast has been cool. But I really miss that. I really miss being able to go there and sit down and record a show and all the good. We talked about it on the shows, back then. The conversations pre-show and post-show were way better than the ones on the air. And I miss those, man. Those were a lot of fun.
It's something that you and I talked about that I really wanted to work hard on. Performance Center got to be a place where it just really wasn't that fun for a while. We just got to building cars and doing things, and I think we've just something, a few years ago just snapped at me that, we got to do some fun things from here. And you've pushed me to do some of those things. I think they've been great for everybody involved, and I can't wait to continue to do more of them.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully we'll be able to do some live shows. It's all on my end. Roger has great internet down there. I could have, if I was willing to spend about $6,000, just short of $6,000 to pay to put fiber in here, and that's not going to happen. So, but I actually did talk to a guy, my stepdad, actually last night about that. He has some experience in the fiber industry, and he told me how to go about getting what I need and the right length that I needed and all that, so I could have it installed myself, and I probably could save myself about $5,000 there. So we might come around one day. We might be able to broadcast live from the studios here and, be set up like the Dale Jr. download. I don't know if you've seen them lately, but, they're all in their homes and all on Skype or Zoom or whatever the heck they're on. And
we tried to do it a little while ago. It just looks like we're robotic.
Yeah. You were over there moving, but you weren't moving. So
I wasn't moving.
Yeah. I don't know if you could see me or not. I couldn't tell. But I
could see you, but sometimes it pixelated and it wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was going to be bad.
Yeah, technology is not a thing that we have a whole lot of up here in the sticks of Virginia. So
sometimes that's good.
Of course, it worked good last week. You and I, when we were talking to Ron, you and I had video. I wasn't able to get it recorded because I was having trouble with OBS bringing that in. But we had video, even though we were talking on the phone to him. But we had video, so it worked last week. We just the internet's not working as good this week, so we're getting there. We're small steps. We're figuring this out. I got a new computer sitting over here on the floor, and I got to get it hooked up, and maybe that'll improve things a little bit too. It's a little faster, a little better. Upgrading here in this downtime. Thankfully, I didn't have to pay for it, but
Right. It's good to have a birthday every once in a while.
It is. Even during these times, I would have rather been spent my day yesterday out on the lake and went to a Japanese restaurant and had them throw shrimp at me. But can't have it all, I guess.
Can't have it all. That's right.
So I'm just thankful for everything that we've been able to do during this time, and not I'm a big old boy. It's going to take a while for me to starve. So, I got that going for me. So if the world does, start to come to an end, I got a little bit more life left in me than some of you guys. So I'll be all right. I'll be able to eat, my body will feed off of its own fat cells. So we'll be good.
Fed them off for a little while.
Yeah. It's going to be a savior for me when normally it's not. So. Anyways, we've rambled on long enough. We're going to hit the hour mark here in about a minute, but we're not going to make it to that because I'm going to cut this thing off. So, hey, we'll be back. Hopefully, maybe tomorrow, me and Roger will grab somebody and, maybe a promoter, a racer, somebody. If you got any ideas who you want to hear on here, let us know because we're always thinking about it. And eventually, we'll get up with David Gilliland because I think that'll be an interesting conversation, especially given today's news. I think maybe it was a blessing in disguise that you didn't get to record him the other day, and we'll see what happens. But until then, me and Roger are out, and we'll catch you on the flip side.